and welcome to Live with the Paper Pixie. I'm Julie DiMatteo, the Paper Pixie, coming to you live from Alpharetta, Georgia for episode 306. Today is Wednesday, November 8th, 2023, and I'm really excited about tonight's projects. I see that Frenchie is in the chat. My friend Frenchie Hum asked for, she asked if my double flip top box from a few years ago fits a gift card, and it doesn't fit a gift card, but I just couldn't get the idea out of my head. So I designed a double flip top box that holds a gift card. I don't have a gift card in here at the moment, but I'll show you when I demonstrate it. So we're doing that project tonight, and then a diagonal flap fold, which I'm excited to show you, and also show you the inspiration for this as well. So if you're watching us live, say hello and where you're watching from if you haven't already. And if you're new here, let us know in the chat. My amazing community will give you a big warm welcome. They're so amazing. Let's see. If you do have a question for me tonight, be sure to put a Q in front of that question. That will make it into my queue. When I do the live Q&A, we'll save that for the end of tonight's live stream. That way I can focus on tonight's projects, and then I'll answer your questions at the end. So make sure you put a Q in front of your question, otherwise it's just a comment. And let's see, when you shop with me, you earn Pixie Perks on orders of $25 or more. All you need to do is use my magic shopping link, thepaperpixie.com/shop. That will auto-magically take you to the Stampin' Up! Online store, shopping with me, with my current host code already added to your order for you. If your order is going to be $150 or more, make sure you take that host code off your order. You'll be able to do that on the shopping cart screen, because you're going to earn Stampin' Rewards on orders of $150 or more, but you'll also earn Pixie Perks from me as well. Let's see, we had some brand new online exclusives that dropped yesterday, November 7th, and I wanted to show you really quickly where you can find those in the online store. Let me clear off my screen a little bit here. You'll just click menu and then online exclusives. And what you'll see are all the products that are available online only that you won't see in a printed catalog, but they're still available to purchase. We had a lot of fun new bundles and stamps that dropped yesterday. Simply Sparkling, Softly Said, Feathered Flight. I did ask my team members which one was their favorite, and so far the winner is Simply Sparkling. I'm definitely going to be adding that to my next order. Well, who am I kidding? It's on an order, I just haven't submitted it yet. But there's also, you saw a couple sneak peeks from me with the Meandering Meadows suite. You'll see that that indicates currently unavailable. That's only because the embellishments right now are out of stock. I think estimated to be back the week of November 27th, but you can still get everything else in that suite. In fact, I recommend, if you really want the Meandering Meadows Designer Series paper, you're going to want to get that sooner than later, I think, because it's a really, really popular item. So take a look at the online only items or online exclusives. I do have a link in the description. It's thepaperpixie.com/online only, and that will take you directly to the online exclusives category in my online store. So check the video description. You'll find all kinds of good stuff down there tonight. Also, you can support the channel by becoming a Pixie patron. This is a list of the benefits that come with that. This is a monthly recurring charge. You can also support the channel in other ways with super chats and super thanks for one-time recognition as well. So we have our next Pixie Patron members only stream is going to be next Thursday, November 16th. So if you want to join us, there's also a link in the description to join the channel. If you don't see the join button, it all depends on which device you're using and which operating system, whether you see that join button or not. Gotta love Android versus iOS, right? So there is a link in the description if you'd like to join the channel. I'll give y'all a shout out at the end of my live stream as well for the credits. And then let me go ahead and flip to the downward facing camera. I have got, oh, thank you. I've got Brian's charging his laptop. I have to give Brian a little bit of a shout out. He's not on camera, but his birthday is tomorrow. So we're excited to celebrate Brian. So if you want to give Brian a shout out in the chat, he's watching the chat. Y'all know that. So tomorrow he and I will be the same age. That's not really true, is it? The same number. Will you pass me Nolan's show and tell? Nolan is in the process of creating a playground is what I've been told. I'm not sure if these are like rocks on the playground, but I will tell you this little, I don't want these to roll off. The fence that he's made out of pieces of a straw. It's like a pink and white diagonal striped straw that he cut into little pieces, and he used mini glue dots to put that all together. He was trying to use a glue stick, and I was like, no, that's not gonna work. I've got something better for the job. So I love when Stampin' Up! Products come to the rescue with the kids' projects. So yeah, mini glue dots have put together that little, I think there's a fence like that on their playground. So he's mimicking that on the playground. So that's from Nolan. I don't have show and tell from Lily. She had her overnight last week, and she was a zombie until what, Sunday, I think. She came home Friday. But she had the time of her life, so that was fun. And I think today I just closed up the last piece of closing up my dad's estate, so it hasn't quite hit me yet. That was quite a long journey over the last 8 months. I've learned a lot of things, but we closed up a chapter today, so I'm appreciative of that. All right, so here are tonight's projects. Bubba G is in the chat. If you're new here, Greg Ferlito is my brother Greg, and I have to go back to the chat and figure out which one of you nicknamed him Bubba G. Y'all have like the best way of doing nicknames, because I believe somebody in the chat nicknamed my dad Papa Pixie. So that moniker stuck for a long time with my dad, and now we love Bubba G for Greg. So Greg is in the house. I see it. All right, so it's Brian with a Y. Thank you, Martha. So here we go. This is an overhead view of our projects that we're going to create tonight. This is, I'm calling it a diagonal flap card. Now let me show you the inspiration I have for this. I received my top performer pins in the mail, and it came with this beautiful gift tag that I am using as inspiration. It's hand signed by Shelly and Sarah, which is always so special. But I loved the way that they had this diagonal flap. Now you'll see mine is a little bit different on the sample. However, I'm going to show you how we can make 2 of these. The diagonal is just going to go in a little bit of a different direction. But it's a little bit of an optical illusion, so I'm excited to show you how this goes together. My pixified version of this awesome tag as inspiration. So that's the inspiration for that. I don't still have one of the original flip top boxes that I created. It was a square version that was 3 1/4 by 3 1/4, so it held little 3 by 3 note cards and envelopes. But this one opens to hold a gift card. So I put designer series paper in the bottom just to make it a little extra special. And I will tell you that I have spent, I don't know how many hours, but I wanted to, this is one of these tricky boxes that's got some 1/16 of an inch increments. However, I tried to sort of redefine how I came up with my measurements from the last time. I want to say it was in 2017 I did that box. Maybe that was too long ago. But I've tried to make the measurements a little bit easier on you. I do have project sheets for both of these projects linked in the description. So below this video, when the video's over, you can go grab those project sheets after the live show. That's like unheard of for me to have those links ready for you. So we're gonna start with the double flip top box. Good, Frenchie, I'm so glad you love it. This was actually really fun to put together. So you can use so many different products for this for so many different occasions. I started playing with the Berry Cute or the Berry Christmas, whatever that sweet is called. Are you laughing at me because I can't remember the name? So actually I need to pull up my notes. So give me a moment to do that so I can see my measurements, because that would be really important. All right, there we go. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my supplies. First, I want to show you the products we're using tonight. So the Berry Cute stamp set. This, the Berry Cute bundle just came back in stock at the end of the day yesterday if you've been waiting for the Berry Cute punch and the Berry Cute stamp set. Well, the stamp set's been available, but you couldn't get the bundle because of the punch. It's back in stock now. We're also using the Berry Christmas Designer Series paper. The base on this one is Very Vanilla, which I don't use very often, so I'm happy to use some Very Vanilla tonight. My favorite, Rhinestone Basic Jewels, the Deckled Circles. I had some fun picking out some dies. We're using this cool die cut piece from the Stars at Night dies. Totally not necessary, but believe it or not, it's the real red piece behind that. And then the All That dies, which I got that one out, but it's this sort of deckled, I think. The Deckled Circle? I don't know. It's got the scalloping on the edges. And then this is the Deckled Circle that we're using on that. So I'll give you those for the card. I'll give you those diameters when we get to it. Also using the Sparkling Snowflakes Tag Topper Punch for the card, the Baker's Twine Essentials Pack, and then finally the 1 3/4 inch circle punch. Those are just a product overview for you. All right, I got templates for you as well. You'll notice in the project sheet, there are 2 templates that are included in there, one for the lid and one for the base. So you won't see featured supplies on that just because I love to fit my project sheets onto one page. But ultimately, when I do get the blog post done, you'll be able to see all of the supplies there. So we are going to start with, let me make sure I've got the right measurements. All right. Put these off to the side. We're going to start with the real easy one, and that is Balmy Blue. And this piece measures 6 1/4 by 7 1/2. I'm going to bring in the Simply Scored. And then I'm just going to score on all 4 sides at 1 inch and 2 inch. So I'm just going to do 1, 2, and then just keep turning it 1/4 of a turn and doing 1 and 2. The inside of this double flip top box has a reinforced box, which gives it a lot of structure. I love a double layered box there. So there is what the score lines look like. Again, really easy, 6 1/4, 7 1/2, scoring at 1 and 2 on all 4 sides, okay? While we've got the Simply Scored out, let's also score the Night of Navy. Now, the measurements on the starting piece are gonna have 1/16 of an inch, but I figured out how to do this with score lines that are not that complicated. So you're gonna wanna start with a piece of Night of Navy or whatever color you're using. That measures 4 7/16, which is only 1/16 less than 4 1/2, by 10 7/16. So just 1/16 less than 10 1/2. Okay, so basically it's about 4 1/2 by 10 1/2, but it's just 1/16 less on both. There is a method to my madness, so it's a really nice fit. Our paper trimmer has 1/16 of an inch measurements on it. The Simply Scored does not, so that's why I opted to cut the starting piece with 1/16, but scoring not using 1/16, and this will make it a little bit more accurate this way. So we're gonna go ahead and score along the 4 7/16 inch side at 3 3/8 from each side. It's gonna feel weird because we're going past the halfway point, but again, method to my madness. So 3 3/8, rotate it 180, and 3 3/8 again, okay? So just real easy on the short side. Then on the long side, we're gonna go ahead and score this. So this is the 10 7/16 inch side at 2 3/8 and 7 from each side. So 2 3/8 and 7. And I'm gonna rotate at 180 and repeat 2 3/8 and 7. And essentially what that's doing is, if you remember with the box base, these panels are all 1 inch. The way that we scored this, these are actually all 1 1/16, which gives us that little extra bit so that the base fits in the lid, okay? So that's the scoop. Now, do you need me to repeat that one more time? On the short side, it's 3 3/8 from each side. On the long side, it's 2 3/8 and 7 from each side. 2 3/8 and 7. okay? Now we're gonna go ahead and fold and burnish on both pieces and get that part out of the way. All right, so that's the Night of Navy. That's going to be for our lid. Wait, if you haven't seen the double flip top lid box, wait till you see what the template looks like. It's such a goofy looking template, but it works so well. I love it. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do our cutting first, then I'm gonna adhere designer series paper, and then we're gonna assemble. So I'm gonna start with the easier piece first. That is the card base, or the box base. My notes say cardstock base, and so that keeps throwing me off. This is essentially how we're gonna cut this. So I've got it in landscape. I'm gonna take my paper snips, and I'm gonna cut up each of the vertical, or I'm gonna cut up each of the vertical score lines, stopping at the second horizontal score line. So I'm just cutting right up the middle of the score line there. And we'll just focus on one sort of corner at a time. So I'm essentially going to be removing the 3 squares in each corner and leaving behind a tab. So I like to then turn it so it's portrait. I'm going to come in and remove these 2 sections. I'm also miter cutting when I cut that away. So miter cut, I'm just cutting a little bit of an angle there. And then I'm going to come in and remove 1 square, basically leaving that tab behind, like so. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing over here, and then we're going to come in and do some more miter cuts. So I've turned it basically 180. I'm going to remove these 2 squares, also miter cut, like so, and then remove 1 square to leave the tab behind. So like this. Okay, now what I like to do is fold this big section out of the way on that second horizontal score line to isolate those 2 tabs, and I can come in and miter cut. The miter cuts really help for all these pieces just fit inside the box and not get in our way. And then I'm going to come in and just miter cut on this outside, the section closest to me here, just a little bit of a miter cut. That's going to fold into the box, and miter cutting it helps it to not get stuck on the edges there. All right, so that half is done. Okay, so I'm going to turn it 180 and repeat the same thing. I'm going to cut up each of the vertical score lines, stopping at the second horizontal score line. Now this would be a great gift box for teachers, somebody special in your life. It's a great way to give a gift card. We'll throw some different treats in there and see what might fit when we do the Q&A. All right, so then again, I'm going to remove, I'm turning it a quarter of a turn, getting rid of these 2 squares here, and also miter cutting. And then removing 1 square. Turning it 180 to the next corner. Again, remove the 2 and miter cut. Then remove the 1. Coming back here, and now we're going to fold this big section out of the way. Up and out of the way so we can come in and miter cut on these tabs. And then miter cut on this section closest to me. All right, let's get these pieces and parts out of the way. I need my little trash can. All right, so that will now look like our template here. Okay, I'm going to put this off to the side again because we'll kind of do this in stages. Bringing in this piece, and wait till you see the template for this one. If you've seen my double flip top box from a few years ago, this might look familiar, but how weird does that look? It's almost like a double-edged arrow is what it looks like to me. All right, so the way that I like to do this is I'm gonna cut up the vertical score lines. I'm gonna come in 2 vertical score lines from either edge and cut up to the first horizontal score line. Like that, okay? So we've only come in and cut the second one in from each side. Now I'm gonna turn it the long way, and I'm actually gonna fold this section out of the way because we actually need to remove this whole middle section here, okay? Yes, spaceship, I like it, Susie. I'm gonna then come in, I folded this out of the way because we wanna keep most of that, and then I'm just gonna cut right down the score line. And believe it or not, I'm just gonna keep going to the last horizontal score line. This section's gonna drop out of the way. Well, it should, it's hanging on a little bit. And then we've got a tab left here. Okay, now I'm gonna turn it this way and make sure that we can then release this tab as well. So I'm just gonna cut right up that vertical score line here and stop at that horizontal. So what you've got is we remove that middle section and then we released those tabs, but we did it in a way that doesn't seem logical, but it'll make sense once we put this together, okay? So I'm gonna do the same thing on the opposite side, again, coming in 2 vertical score lines from the outside and cutting up to that first horizontal. This is where you wanna just take your time, because if you're like me, out of habit, you would probably cut up both vertical score lines, and then we'd be stuck with not having tabs where we need them, okay? So same thing, I'm gonna turn it to the long side, or to turn it to the short side, portrait. We're gonna remove this whole middle section. This is where referencing the template will really help you create this box. And I promise it looks complicated, but it's really easier than it looks. And then I'm gonna keep going to that horizontal score line to release that tab right here. Same thing on the opposite side. Like so. Okay, so let me get that out of the way. We're starting to look like this, only it's pretty boxy at this point. Now, we're gonna come in and miter cut these tabs, and I'm actually gonna fold this whole section up and out of the way. Did you see how I did that? So I'm basically folding on that top horizontal score line to get that all out of the way so I can get my paper snips in here on these tabs to miter cut. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing on the opposite side. Again, fold on that top horizontal score line to get that just out of the way. Then we can come in and miter cut. I know, I just find it so much easier to miter cut when there's nothing in my way. All right. So the last thing we need to do now, before we can start putting designer series paper on this piece, is we've got to do some angle cuts. Now, I typically just do this with my paper snips. You could bring in the paper trimmer to do this as well, but you just want to pay attention. I'm going to flip it this way. We want to make sure that we're not cutting in the wrong direction, right? So from basically that score line where the tab is, we're going to cut on the diagonal to that vertical score line. So I am right-handed, so I'm gonna kind of finagle this paper so it's in the right angle for me to cut as a right-handed person. If you're left-handed, you probably are gonna be cutting on the opposite side, okay? So I'm gonna eyeball this, but again, you could bring the paper trimmer in and let me actually show you what that would look like. If you've got a bigger pair of scissors, sometimes you can cut a little bit more, you've got a little bit more real estate to cut. So I'm gonna cut from that score line. Let me zoom in for you a bit. Basically, you're cutting from the score line here to the score line on the tab. So I'm going to cut one of these with the paper trimmer just to show you that. Like so. Okay, whoops, as I'm super big on the screen. So, wrong direction, Julie. I'm gonna do the rest with my hand because it's faster. But you got options if you prefer to do it with the paper trimmer. So, you're just gonna pay attention to the tab. We're cutting from score line diagonally to the other side of the tab there. Basically, you just cut in whatever angle it is to not cut away the tab. So like so. Okay, so that side's done. We'll do the same thing over here again.
I'm not sure.
Alexa off. Now that I've just turned her off in all of your households. Oh goodness. All right, same thing, score line to score line on the diagonal. Having fun with diagonals in tonight's projects. I gotta figure out what I'm saying that wakes her up. That's 2 weeks in a row, I think.
I tell her to turn on, she doesn't turn on.
Yeah, she doesn't like Brian. The kids always get a good chuckle out of it because he'll try talking to her and she just won't listen to him. I'm gonna leave my laptop back there still. All right, so that part is done, believe it or not. It'll go a lot faster when you're not having to explain it. So that is ready to go. Now what we're gonna do, and again, you'll be able to reference the template on the project sheet. Now what we're gonna do is adhere our designer series paper. And in doing so, we're actually gonna also hide some magnets. I haven't used magnets in a really long time, but I do love using them, especially when I can secure them so that they're safe, right? So I'm gonna bring in 3 pieces of, yes, 3 pieces of designer series paper. I was making sure that I had what I needed. So we have got, let's start with adhering the this pattern to the inside of our insert box. So this piece of designer series paper measures 2 1/8 by 3 3/8, and it's actually the exact same size as a gift card. Okay, but I loved adding that to the base. It's just a nice little sneak peek. And then once the recipient spends their gift card, then they can still save the box and see the pretty designer series paper in the bottom. So I'm just gonna use liquid glue. And I think you can tell this is kind of curved up, that we're placing the designer series paper on the inside of the box. So you'll have about a 1/16 of an inch around the edges of that designer series paper, and that's just gonna fit right in the box space. Okay, so we've got that. We'll put that together in just a moment. Now we're actually gonna work on putting this together. Now, the way that the score lines are, I can fold on, for example, the second score line from the left and the first score line from the right. And those are gonna line up right where I want them to. But what I first want to do is get my magnets ready. So let me grab those. So linked in the video description is my link to Total Element. I am an affiliate for them. Remember to use coupon code PAPERPIXIE. I'll have to add that to the description. I think I forgot that. You'll get 10% off your order. Now my pretty link, thepaperpixie.com/Total Element, that's gonna take you to the exact magnets that I purchased. They are 1/4 of an inch by 1/32 of an inch in thickness, and I think you get 200 of them for, I don't know, $14.99 or something around that price. It's a US based company. I love these magnets and I'm proud to be an affiliate for them. So coupon code PAPERPIXIE gets you 10% off, and I'm gonna just use 2 of them on this project. And I'm gonna show you how I kind of piece these together. So let's see, I'm gonna fold on, it doesn't really matter which way, but let me show you on the box. I like to have the left flap closing last, and you'll see that it's just a little bit further to the right. So I'm just gonna make sure that I line this up that way. So I'm folding on the first score line from the right, second score line from the left. And keeping this flat, that is gonna be exactly how I wanna line these up. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take my glue dots. I'm gonna pick up one of my magnets, and I'm gonna use my take your pick tool for this. So I've stuck it to my roll of glue dots, and I'm gonna pick that up. So again, folding this flat, and I'm eyeballing where I want this first magnet to go, which let me zoom in a little bit here. I'm gonna come in about a half of an inch from the edge and just pop that down, okay? I'm doing that so that when we adhere the designer series paper, we've got a little bit of an edge here on the right for that paper to glue around all sides of that magnet, okay? Now, the fun part is I'm gonna take the second magnet and I'm just going to drop it on the opposite side, okay? So that's automatically lined up the right positive or negative. But what we need to do is put a glue dot. We're gonna rest a glue dot right on that magnet there. So glue dot, and usually you can get it to stay put. So I just set that right onto the magnet there, okay? All these little flaps are giving me a hard time. So again, first score line from the right, second score line from the left. I'm just gonna press it flat and press down, and now we've got our magnets right where we need them to go, okay? And they're both stuck down with a glue dot, okay? So that's just gonna keep those in place where we need them. Now we're gonna cover up with designer series paper. All right, so now we don't have to worry about those. They're in the spot we need them. And I think that this was my left flap. So I've got two pieces of designer series paper. These measure 2 3/16, so just a 1/16 less than 2 1/4. 2 3/16 by 2 1/4, okay? So that's gonna fit right there. I'm gonna go ahead and use liquid glue. I'm gonna be not super generous with the glue, but I wanna make sure I've got good coverage here so that I can secure that magnet behind the designer series paper. So just kind of coverage all over the designer series paper. And then you just want to take your time here and make sure that you've got that paper sticking around all sides of that magnet. So I like to kind of spend some time here on the right side of the magnet, pressing that liquid glue down. The other thing you can do is just come in with a bone folder here and just gently kind of burnish it into place, going right up to that magnet. Don't press too hard because you don't want the magnet to break through the designer series paper. But now that first magnet, you see a tiny little bump, but it's hidden underneath that designer series paper. So we're gonna repeat the same thing on the opposite side. Now, if you had a directional paper, again, this is technically a landscape, it's only difference of about a 1/16 of an inch, but just pay attention if you've got a directional paper that you've got your direction going the right way. And same thing with the second one. We're just gonna go ahead and put the designer series paper right over the top of that magnet. Again, now I'm focusing on the left side of that magnet because that's a smaller section of designer series paper there. Come in and burnish a little bit. And that's just spreading out the glue and getting that to adhere really well around the magnet. All right, so those magnets are in there in the right position, ready to go. All right, so we're gonna put this guy away for a second. Let's focus on the base. I'm gonna need that glue here in a second. First, I'm gonna come in with some tear and tape. Tear and tape on my little metal ruler because I like to tear the edges using that, or a credit card or gift card works. I'm gonna run tear and tape, I'll bring it up to the camera in just a moment, right along the top edge of all 4 sides. You can use liquid glue for this as well, but I just find this is much quicker and easier for the final step of putting this base together. All right, like so. Just gonna burnish that with my finger here so it makes it easier to pull off. Now we're gonna focus on the liquid glue and putting these tabs together. So basically I'm gonna put liquid glue on a tab and we're gonna line up this score line with this cut edge, okay? And we're just gonna do one tab at a time to create those sharp corners there. And again, I love liquid glue for this because it allows me to kind of slide things right into place and give me that really nice corner edge. Okay, so I'm just going to work my way around. Yay, I'm so glad you love this, guys. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you do. One of my favorite style boxes. I do love a double reinforced box as well. Just kind of takes the gift box up a notch, I think. Yay, Frenchie. She can't wait to make it tomorrow. I hope your daughter loves it. All right, so we got those tabs in. Then what I like to do is, I don't know, I kind of bend these back so just so I can get to that tear and tape back. And you can also pull the backing off ahead of time if you don't mind sticking to the tear and tape. Sometimes that gets on my nerves. All right, so what I like to do is fold in the shorter sides first because they don't have any tabs to go over, and those will just fold right to the inside. And then same thing with the sides. You're just gonna also be folding over those tabs that are in there. Like so. And then I'm just gonna come in, I like to use my bone folder, just come in and reinforce those edges. Pressing that tear and tape into place. And I don't know if you can hear this, but I love how it's this reinforced edge here, okay? So there's the base. We're gonna use that in a second for a little bit of leverage. All right, so now my paper snips are sticking to the magnets, which is hilarious. Okay, so now we're gonna put together this base, and it's so cool how it goes together. So we're literally just gonna put adhesive again on one tab at a time, lining up the score line to this cut edge, like so, okay? So that is why we cut the tabs the way we did. And it really goes, this, you know, gluing the tabs is really a lot similar to doing a box itself. It just has these interesting angles and such, okay? So we'll just work our way around. Again, just using your edges and score lines to get everything lined up here. Now sometimes it's gonna be a little bit weird to hold into place. So I kind of get it stuck where I want it, and then what you can do is just press down flat from the inside. So I don't know if you can see that, but I've got this flat on my workspace. I'm just pressing on those tabs this way. And I do that sort of right after I've gotten that right where I want it, and it starts to adhere like so, okay? So 2 tabs to go. And then I find whether you're right-handed or left-handed, one side's always easier than the other. And then the last tab here. All right, so I know it looks so weird, but it's ready for this to go together. So now all we're gonna do is put liquid glue on the bottom of the base set that down, and then we're going to actually close the box, and that's going to allow it to stick right where we need it to. It fits like a glove. Again, if you had directional paper, just pay attention that you got your directions going in the right way before you glue that down. And again, I'm just going to gently kind of place that between the score lines, not paying a ton of attention to it because I'm actually just going to close right side, left side. And then I'm just basically using my desktop and pressing this all down into place. Okay. And once that's there, I'll open this back up, and then I like to just take the back side of my glue bottle and I'm just pressing down on the inside, spreading that glue out like so. So then you can close, you might be able to hear this on the microphone, the magnet. I love that noise. So that's going to hold itself closed. We've got that magnet in there, and I love the contrast of the two different colors. So that is the basics of the flip top box. We're going to decorate it here in just a moment. Wanted to show you again, the gift card fits perfectly on the inside, and then you can throw in a little handful of treats like Hershey's Kisses, Hershey's Nuggets, Werther's, all kinds of good stuff. I've got a couple of treats I'll show you towards the end when we get to the Q&A. Okay, so decorating this wise, let's see. I'm gonna go ahead, we'll do some quick stamping. So the phrase warm wishes and native Navy, Night of Navy ink here. And then I'm stamping that onto Very Vanilla. And I'm going to punch that out with the 1 3/4 inch circle punch. I love that font. All right, and then this again is from the Stars at Night dies, and I'm going to first layer the Very Vanilla on top of the, was that the All That dies? Yeah, the All That dies. I love this die because it's got that deckled edge, and then you've got some embossing. So we're just going to layer those on top of each other. And that will just nestle right in that embossing, or that embossed circle. Perfect fit there. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue kind of in the center here. You do not need these dies. I just loved the fact that this worked so well together. I'm just going to center that left to right. Essentially, if you just wanted to cut a piece of real red, this is about 3 inches wide and 7/8 of an inch in height. But you'll see that's just glued on the back there. And then I'm actually going to stick that on there with dimensionals, just because we've got a little bit of, it's really hard to see, but there's a tiny little raised bump there from the magnet. And I got to get a new sheet of dimensionals here. They're all sticking to the back. Look at that. There we go. All right, so I'm kind of going above and below the magnet and just to the left. We're then going to center this left to right, top to bottom. Press into place. Now, because of where we put the dimensionals, that's not gonna, they won't get in the way there. And then 2 more bling pieces. Just going, we'll do the rhinestone last. Let's do Very Vanilla from the Baker's Twine Essentials pack. I'm just going to tie a little bow here. A little bunny ears bow, I think. Just 2 loop-de-loops, and then I'm going to, am I going to do that live? We'll see. Oh, goodness. I promise the card is really easy, quick and easy for tonight. I knew when I worked on this project, I'm like, I gotta have an easy card, an easy fun fold for you. All right, so I'm just gonna zhuzh the loops till I get them the size I like. Ginny, since you didn't put a Q, yes, it is sized to hold a gift card. All right, I'm gonna just cut the tails off. There we go. All right. Clean up my mess here a little bit. Now I'm just gonna take a mini glue dot and kind of roll it like a burrito. Tammy, one of my tricks with that twine is just kind of like playing with the size of the loop-de-loops, and sometimes that straightens out the twist. The other thing you can try is running it in between your finger and your bone folder, so you can get some of the kinks out that way. So just a little bit on the edge, or on the left edge there. And then a large rhinestone. Let's see. All right, so there is our double flip top gift card box. Again, size to fit a gift card. Let me grab that. Show you that it fits perfectly inside. You can throw in a little handful of treats as well. So there we go. That is our 3D project for tonight. Let's go ahead and jump into tonight's fun fold. Actually, let me show you what treats fit really quickly. We'll do that. Oh, I've got like a whole boxes of things here, but you could throw in, what do I have here? Hershey's Nuggets will fit. Could probably be a little strategic about how you put them in there. I think you could probably get 5 in there. Kind of a weird orientation there, but Hershey's Nuggets will fit. Hershey's Kisses. Throw some handful in there. A little box of stuff. Let's see if the Godiva. Yep, the Godiva signature, whatever these are called, and the Mercies would fit as well. You could fit 3 of them in there. I only have 2. Let's see.
You want the ultimate stash?
The ultimate stash? What's the ultimate stash? Oh, the Halloween candy. Gold coins would fit in there. Let's see. Those turtle bites, you could probably get a pair of those in there. Do I have any Ghirardelli? I have Ghirardelli minis, but the regular ones would fit too. Probably fit 3 of them in there. Hershey's mini. So yeah, this will hold a lot of different treats if you want to hide the gift card under some treats. I got a York peppermint patty. So yeah, that's my little collection of candy here. Oh, they're too funny. Trying to think what else. Let's see. Mints would fit. Altoids. Laffy Taffy. I got all kinds of good stuff in there. All right. And then just looking to see if this rose salve would fit in there. That would be cute with a couple of chocolates maybe, unless you were worried about fragrance leaching. A pocket back would fit. Chapsticks will fit. So I'm safe from eating a lot of this stuff because it's so old. I won't eat it. So I'm using it really just for props. All right, so there you go. Bunch of different things that'll fit in there, okay? All right, so our fun fold card is super fun and kind of a different fun fold. I haven't seen this one particularly before, and there's probably a number of different ways to do it, but I kind of loved the inspiration from Sarah and Shelly on their gift tag. Again, if you've joined us late, the inspiration for the fun fold is this gift tag I got on the Top Performer pins. So I'm going to kind of show you, we're going to basically create, I knew I forgot 2 pieces of Balmy Blue. Let me cut those really quick. I was doing so good. All right, just gonna cut 2 card bases here. So 5.5 by 4 1/4. All right. Put that off to the side. Okay, so I've got a piece of Very Vanilla. This measures 5.5 by 8.5. I'm going to score it in half on the long side at 4 1/4. So this is starting off as just a regular card base. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish on that. And if you want to make sure that you get your edges lined up, go ahead and use the edge here on your paper trimmer. Sometimes the paper's cut a little cattywampus, or maybe you cut it a little cattywampus. It happens to the best of us. Making sure that's lined up, and then burnish. Sometimes that arm gets a little bit in the way, but that gives you a nice edge here. Okay, now I've got a T ruler here. I just ordered this from My Sweet Petunia and I love it. But you can use a ruler as well. I love the T ruler because you can put the cardstock right in the center, or right in the edge there. And I've got the folded edge here. It really doesn't matter which way you do this, but I'm gonna go ahead and make a little tick mark at 2 inches. And then I'm just gonna basically rotate it 180 and do 2 inches again. Okay, so let me repeat that. Tick mark at 2 inches, rotate it 180, 2 inches again. So then what you have are these tick marks that are diagonally across from each other. Okay, use a pencil because you're gonna wanna erase the marks. And then on the paper trimmer, we are just gonna go ahead and cut from pencil mark to pencil mark. And I think, let me zoom in a bit so you can see those again. Okay, so I like to line up one of them in the cutting groove and then I can pivot the other. And then I'm just gonna hold that in place and cut. I do like to kind of go back and forth, but now what we've done is just cut that card base in half. All right, so we basically have 2 pieces. Now what I'm gonna do is this one, I'm gonna flip. Okay, so here was our card base. The fold is here on this side, and actually while we're here, let's erase our pencil marks. Oh, here's the other one. Whoops, as my eraser comes out. All right, so our folded edge is here along the left. I'm gonna take one piece and flip it this way. So I've got that 90-degree angle here in the lower corner. Okay, so these are both going, you know, different ways, but the fold is both on the left. So we can make 2 different cards. They're just gonna have a little bit of a different look, okay? So I've got that. And then I've got 2 card bases of Balmy Blue that are 5.5 by 4 1/4. And then I have 2 pieces from Berry Christmas. These both measure 5 1/4 by 4. Okay, so the way that I'm gonna do this, now there's a couple of different ways. I'm gonna show you the way that I did this one. We're basically gonna glue the folded Very Vanilla diagonal flap to the Balmy Blue base. We're gonna do that first. You don't have to do that first. In fact, it might be easier if you don't, but I'm gonna do it the way that I did it when I created the sample. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring in the paper trimmer again because I wanna use that edge to get this lined up right where I need it. I love using our tools to get things lined up. I'm actually gonna turn it this way. So I've got this edge right here, okay? So I've got, which way am I gonna go? Let's go this way. Okay, so see how I've got, this is the folded edge here. I'm gonna go ahead and line those up in the same spot, but I'm gonna take liquid glue on the back here. Like so, and then I'm just gonna line up, these are both going in that corner. That's going to line up right where we need it to go. Just pushing everything in the corner there. Okay. And then I can kind of move this off and then just burnish it a little bit more. I know I'm running out of space here on my desktop, but I think you get the idea. Okay, so we're going to do the other one as well. Same thing. Now again, I've got my folded edge here at the top, liquid glue on the back side. Now I tried to make this so many different ways today, and this was the way that worked out the best. I tried coming up with all kinds of angles for the designer series paper, and geometry was hard today, so I decided to make this a little bit easier. So this is the one that we're actually going to do tonight because it's going to look a little bit different than the sample, and then I can show you both finished ones. Okay. Bring that back again in a second, but just to show you the differences here. So the fold on both of these is on the left, but then you've got two different looks. Now this one is more like the tag that I got from Stampin' Up, okay? But again, I love the way both of them look. So I'm gonna put this one off to the side. The techniques are gonna be exactly the same for the rest of these. We're just cutting at a different angle. So I've got my 5 1/4 by 4 piece of designer series paper. We're gonna do a little bit of an optical illusion here. So I found this was the easiest way to do it. I'm gonna adhere to my Very Vanilla piece. Okay, now the best way to do that to make sure you're not getting glue where you don't want it is to put the glue on the Very Vanilla piece. I don't want to go all the way to the edge because remember we've got about 1/8 of an inch of the Very Vanilla that's going to peek out from behind the designer series paper. Okay, so you see that. Now at this point, I'm not going to use the paper trimmer. We just want to layer this so we see 1/8 of an inch of the Balmy Blue and the Very Vanilla. It's going to look a little weird. It's kind of adhered like that. Now this would be a cool card as well, but I thought it would be really cool to trim that and adhere it to the Balmy Blue piece. So if you find that it's easier to use your paper snips, I would actually recommend not adhering the Very Vanilla first, because as you can see, it's going to be really hard for me to get my paper snips in there as a right-handed person. Now I could cut it this way, but it's going to be hard to see where that Very Vanilla edge is. So we're going to do this on the paper trimmer. All right. And essentially, I'm going to want to cut right along that edge. Now, with the paper trimmer, that blade goes right in the middle of the cutting groove. So you're going to want that Very Vanilla edge to go right into the middle. And usually what I like to do here is to start it at the top. Let's get my cutting blade up there. And just make sure it's cutting and not getting caught on anything. And then I'm just going to cut until you feel it kind of release. You see that? And you can't feel that because I'm on camera, but when you do it yourself, you feel that cutting blade release when it gets to the edge of your designer series paper. So now what we have is that's perfectly cut, and now I can adhere that piece to the Balmy Blue. How cool is that? I love it. All right. So liquid glue then, and I actually like to do this with this open. I love the fact that you can get 2 of these rather quickly out of the cardstock and the way that we cut it. So I'm basically just taking that designer series paper. I'll close it just to make sure that all looks lined up there. 1/8 of an inch kind of all the way around, but that comes right up to the edge of the Very Vanilla diagonal flap, like so. How cool is that? All just using 1 panel of designer series paper, but you kind of have that bit of an optical illusion. Now using that Very Vanilla diagonal flap allows you to write a note in here without having to add a diagonal piece of cardstock in there, which is always tricky because geometry. So let's go ahead and then finish decorating this. I've got a deckled circle out of Very Vanilla. This one measures approximately 3 1/8 in diameter. Okay. And then I've got a 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch piece of Balmy Blue. And I'm gonna do the snowflake trick again, if you missed my project from a couple weeks ago, using the Sparkling Snowflakes Tag Topper Punch. So again, you want a starting piece of paper that's 3.5 by 3.5. You're gonna feed that into the punch. And I just use my fingers and just make sure that's centered in the punch there. You have just a little bit of overhang on the edge there. And punch. Work my way around, get the pieces out of the way so we don't get anything stuck in there. And again, I'm just repeating the same thing, just centering it in the punch, and then we come up with an awesome snowflake piece. Got paper stuck in there. All right, and then I'm going to stamp, again, Warm Wishes into this All That Dies die cut, the same one we used on the double flap gift card box. Popping that right in the center. All right, so to line up the circle here, I'm actually going to flip the circle over because I want to make pencil marks. So I'm centering it top to bottom, left to right. Let's see. And I'm just going to make pencil marks right where that diagonal is. And that's only so I know not to go past it with adhesive. So just made little pencil marks there. Hard to see, but liquid glue. Yay, I'm so glad you guys like that snowflake. I was so excited when I figured it out. All right, so now, this is always the trickier part. I'm gonna take, I open this and I'm gonna take the flap and kind of layer it right where those pencil marks are. Just picking it up a little bit, and then just in case, actually that's a pretty good lined up there. You just don't want to get adhesive in the wrong spot. Now, if you've got a little bit of pencil mark showing, just come on in and erase. There we go. All right, and then liquid glue on the back of our snowflake piece. I like to kind of put that at an angle here. And a little trio of dimensionals on the back of Warm Wishes. Pop that in the center here. And then the finishing touch, a large rhinestone. Boop, right there. All right, let me clean up my mess here, and I'll show you the two different cards with the different angle. Well, it's the same angle, just a different direction. All right, so here's the one we made tonight where it opens like so. And here's the sample I made where it opens like so. So again, it's basically one full card base cut diagonally to create two cards. The diagonal flat piece is one full card base. So it doesn't use a ton of designer series paper. I love the way that that one panel of designer series paper is used on both the flap and the base of the card. So this is a really cool fun fold. I hope you'll give it a try. All right, so don't forget the project sheets are linked in the description. Now is time for us to jump into tonight's Q&A. So while I get that teed up, make sure you take a moment to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And just a reminder, put a Q in front of your question if you got a question for us tonight. And also, there's about a 20 to 30 second delay, so when I get to the end of the Q&A that I see, I might miss a few questions near the end, and that's just due to the time delay. All right, so get that teed up here. All right, Lisa's up first with the first question. Hi, Julie and Brian. I saw the notification for members only on my YouTube feed on how you plan a project, but it didn't have an option to open it. How do I access it? It actually was just a photo, Lisa. I shared a behind the scenes photo today of just a snippet of the box and kind of what my creative mess looks like, where I write down all the measurements and figure it out. So there was nothing to open other than the photo. So it was just a quick sneak peek behind the scenes of my creative process. Let's see. I have not bought anything from Mercari before, Cynthia. The Stampin' Blends labels were updated on April 10th, so if you've already purchased my Stampin' Blends labels, I did send an email on April 10th notifying you of the update with your personal download link. If you didn't get that email, it's possible that it either got lost in your inbox or ended up in your spam folder. So be sure to send me an email at support@thepaperpixie.com. I can help you out there. If you still have your original purchase email, the download link in that email will always take you to the most recent version of my labels. So take a look at your emails and see if you can find your purchase email. That download link will work, but if you can't find it, shoot me an email at support@thepaperpixie.com and I'm happy to help you out. Have I done a gift box for a Bath & Body Works lip scrub? I bought one, but I don't think I've made a box for it yet. Brian's shaking his head.
Not lip scrub.
Oh, you already looked it up. Yeah, I have the lip scrub itself, but I haven't made a box for it. So it's on a list of possible future projects, so stay tuned for that. Yes, Pam, anybody can join my members only group. It's just a YouTube channel membership, so anybody is welcome to join. We'd love to have you. Let's see. Okay, Kindercrafts. Is there an easy way to figure out the 8th and the 16th measurements? I always seem to mess it up and usually try to avoid them. Great question. Now, my question to you is not necessarily a follow-up question, but it might be that you're used to working in metric maybe, and that's a whole different ballpark. 16th of an inch, or I guess it's 30 seconds are the closest to a millimeter, aren't they? Anyways, if you search, this is going to sound really basic, and I apologize, this is not to offend anybody at all, but if you search how to read a ruler on Google, you should find an article that pops up really close to the top of the search results that literally shows an inch on a ruler and how it's broken up into the different 1/8 inch increments. And I think it might actually go down to the 16ths, but I'm not sure. But that article on Google explains it really, really well. Sometimes it's hard for me to put into words reading a ruler, but take a look, just do a quick Google search and you'll find a lot of great resources to help you with the ruler. But essentially, an inch is broken up into either 1/8, well, really, halves, quarters, 1/8, and 16ths. It all depends on what little tick marks you're looking at on the ruler. So, 1/16 of an inch. I know it sounds really, really minuscule. On the paper trimmer itself from Stampin' Up, the little tick marks on the imperial measurements, those would be the measurements we're used to in the US, those are all 1/16 of an inch increments. So sometimes you have to count 1 to 16 in between an inch to kind of figure out. And once you work with those measurements a little bit more, they get a little bit easier to spot and understand, but I do know that it's sometimes difficult to understand when you're just starting out with 1/8 and 16ths. But hopefully you'll find some good resources using Google to help you out. Tracy, when I use the Simply Scored, the stylus when scoring often jumps, skips. Tips to keep this from happening. I heard something about wax paper, but not sure of that process. So yes, wax paper is another suggestion. You can actually just take a piece of wax paper and rub it over your cardstock just before you go to score it. That will allow the stylus to move smoothly. And sometimes it's the technique. So I always recommend trying to keep the stylus at about a 45-degree angle to the cardstock. You do also want to make sure you're not pressing too hard. Because if you press too hard, a couple of different things can happen. You can either start to break the fiber, which we don't want on the cardstock, and that happens more often with designer series paper than cardstock just due to the weight. And then that can also cause you to skip rather quickly. If you're pressing hard, then your stylus can really jump pretty far and do this almost like a record scratch is what it reminds me of. But just make sure you're scoring straight down at about a 45-degree angle, and flip-flop between the larger ball tip and the smaller ball tip to see if one or the other gives you a little bit of a better experience. I always use the small tip, but it's sort of liquid glue versus runner tape. Everybody's kind of got their own preference. So try the different size stylus tips, and then if you're still having trouble, then break out your wax paper and just rub it over your cardstock quickly before you start to score it and see if that helps you. All right, Linda, I think I tackled this one, shared a bunch of different treats to fit in there. Let's see. When do I usually put the tree up? Christmas Eve? No, I'm kidding. I try to do it after Thanksgiving. It doesn't always happen. We have a tiny little tree. We've kind of a long saga of Christmas trees, don't we? Because we always had to pick something that Izzy, the Wonder Kitty, who's no longer with us, but she used to love to chew on trees, whether they were real or artificial. So we had to kind of over the years get smaller and smaller trees and kind of put them up and out of the way. She'd still get to them, but...
And Tucker would climb them.
Yeah, and Tucker, our other cat who's no longer with us, he used to climb to the very top of the tree. So, but I definitely try to do it earlier than later, especially with the kids now. It was different when it was just you and I, wasn't it? But the kids, they love that magic and wonder. So they're usually like, Mom, when are you putting out the Christmas decorations? So we'll try to do it shortly after Thanksgiving. I've reduced the amount of decorations, so it's a lot faster to put up and take down, which is my other big tip. Let's see. Did I ever think about going to work with the AccuCut company and design for them? I never thought of that, Laura, but great suggestion. I know they've got some really cool die cuts for sure. So the paper comes from the Berry Christmas Sweet Collection, and that is on page 22 to 23. Well, technically 22 to 24. Okay, Ethel. Let's see. I attach magnets with a glue dot just like you, but they always pull up from the paper. This is a great question because it happens to the best of us. So usually what happens when you're using magnets and glue dots, and it's a project that has a lot of tension, over time, really the metal wins. It will release that glue dot, or sometimes the glue dot releases from the paper. So what I did tonight, where I actually sandwiched it between the cardstock and the designer series paper, should do the trick, because that magnet is good and sandwiched and nestled in its home for the rest of eternity, probably. Oh, the paper will disintegrate before that comes out. But anyways, the other thing you can try, Kat, is if you're not going to sandwich magnets between layers of paper, you can try using E6000 glue. It's kind of a craft super glue. You do have to be a little bit patient with that because I think it takes, I don't know, kind of overnight for that glue to set, but you could try that as well. Now, again, similar thing. The E6000 glue will likely be stronger than the paper, so it really just depends. I will sometimes alternate between using a Velcro dot versus a magnet, depending on how much tension there is pulling on that magnet, because over time glue dots will release them, unfortunately. Ooh, good question, Beverly. So there is not a formula, to be honest. I will say that this project, to redesign it, I thought I had the measurements good to go. I actually was messaging with Frenchie. I told her I'd figured them out. And then I was like, oh, these measurements are way too complicated to explain. So I need to completely go back to the start. So I will just say it's not something super easy to resize just because of the mechanics of the box and, the 1/16 of an inch measurements that really can complicate things. So if there were a formula, it'd be a really complicated one. I don't think I have my planner, but it was a full page of Scribble Scrabble to try to figure out the measurements for this. I do have a different size on my blog if you want to search for Flip Top Gift Box. There's one that is, the interior box is 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 by 1. So a little bit of a different size there. That one was sized to fit mini 3 by 3 cards. Let's see. Good question, Angie. I'm not positive on Total Element. I believe they ship outside of the US, so I would assume the affiliate code would work as well, but it wouldn't, obviously. Shipping would be shipping. The affiliate code doesn't affect the shipping price, but take a look at it. I think the affiliate links work as well, but I'm not sure what shipping would be for that from the US. I don't know if they're still around, but internationally, I've ordered from Spider Magnets before. I want to say they're on eBay. You could check out Spider Magnets as well if you're not in the US. How do I store my designer series paper? Alphabetical, season, color family. I store them alphabetical by catalog. So you can't see it, but I've got them kind of vertically stored. They're alphabetical by annual catalog and then alphabetical by mini catalog. And then I think I have alphabetical by online exclusives. And that's just because those will kind of move in and out at different times of the year based on catalog. Do I have a treat box that will fit the long box of that? Did she have a follow-up to that? Oh, let's see. Do you have a treat box that fits a large box of the chocolate-covered sunflower seeds? I had a sunflower seed box, but it was not the chocolate-covered ones, was it?
Definitely not, but
It has a sunflower on the front of the box. Rhonda, go ahead and go to my website, thepaperpixie.com, when you get a chance, and click the little magnifying icon in the upper right corner and search for sunflower or sunflower seed. I have a box that holds a package of sunflower seeds. I'm not sure of the size of the chocolate-covered ones, though, so see if that box will work for you. Brian, you want to pop that link? Brian's going to pop the link in the chat for you, Rhonda. You can go take a look at that on my blog. Will a box of Tic Tacs fit in that box? I'm going to say yes, but let me confirm that for you. I had the Tic Tacs and I didn't try those. Yes, ma'am, they will. Yep, a little bit loose, but yes, they fit in there. Not perfectly, but they fit. Plenty of room to spare. How can you have that much chocolate? Yeah, that's because it's old, and I'm sure they're still okay to eat, but I'm not going to do that. Let's see. Ooh, would I ever make my measurements available before you air the video so that we could craft along with you? Good question, Pat. The answer is probably no, and it's not because I don't want to do that. It's because I'm normally figuring things out right up until the moment I go live. It's just how my creative process works. I had figured out all the measurements earlier today, but I hadn't actually come up with the final projects yet. I had like prototypes. So I'm often never ready that far in advance to give you guys the measurements ahead of time. So now on my members only streams, I will keep that in mind so that you can craft along with me if I can get those measurements done ahead of time. But great question. Well, interesting. Did you know cattywampus came from catamount, which means when under attack? It became intertwined with kitty corner. Weird, huh? I love it. America, we make it up as we go along. That's funny. The weight of the basic white heavy cardstock that Stampin' Up! Offers. Carol, that is a great question. They used to publish that information. I've asked for it recently, and Stampin' Up! Has said that that information is proprietary now. They use a number of different paper mills for their paper, both the cardstock and the designer series paper, so they won't share that information anymore. I want to say like 80 pound, but I could be totally wrong. So take that with a grain of salt. I just don't know off the top of my head. So Gloria, in the description, there's a link to join as a channel member. Okay. You'll find that right in the description. Otherwise, depending on what type of device you're on, if you look for the subscribe button, you should also see a join button. If you don't see a join button, go to the description. There's a link there to join the channel. A Reese's pumpkin or Christmas tree. I think the pumpkins will for sure. Actually, I think the Christmas trees as well. We just have eaten a lot of Reese's pumpkins lately with Halloween. But yeah, I'm pretty sure those will fit. I just don't have any at my fingertips to double check. All right, we have reached the end of the questions. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for your great questions. Thanks for joining me tonight. And thanks to those of you watching on replay as well. If you enjoyed tonight's project, learned a tip or trick or two, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That helps us here on YouTube. We will be live again next Wednesday, November 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll have 2 to 3 new projects for you next week. Typically a 3D project and a fun fold. That seems to be my jam. I love teaching you guys new stuff that way. I hope you guys have a wonderful and blessed week. Be sure to check out the online exclusives that dropped this week. Some great new products that are not available in any catalog, only in Stampin' Up's online store. As always, all you need are stamps, ink, and a little paper pixie. We're so glad you've joined us, and I want to give a special shout out to my channel members here with the YouTube credits. Thanks again. Have a wonderful and blessed week, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Take good care. Bye.